Welcome back to Harv's Truck Stop. Today we have reached the 6-month mark on owning my lifted Ram 1500. So I figured we should give you guys an update on what it's like to actually live with a lifted truck. So I'm going to give you 5 reasons to consider lifting your truck. Let's get into it. So for those of you that have watched my videos in the past, I usually start with 5 good, 5 bad, and then I drive the vehicle. But in order to shorten this video, I'm just going to do 5 total to consider, alternating good with bad. So I'm going to start with number 1, being the most obvious, how this looks. It is more aggressive. It is higher off the ground, which applies to how the overall vehicle rides and just how it appears on the road to others and myself. I'd say the big tires and the ability to put on bigger tires due to the lift makes a huge difference. It looks way more comfortable, and if you do your research, you can find aggressive looking tires that are also highway tires and drive fairly comfortably on the road. You're going to notice that the overall truck is actually level and lifted. You can buy leveling kits where you don't have to lift the truck, which limits the size of the tires that you can put on your truck. However, it does get rid of rake, which is when the front end is slightly lower than the rear end. That's how they come factory. A lot of the reason behind that is for aerodynamics. If the nose of the truck is like this, it's fighting through the wind typically a little bit better than it would if it were level and straight on and up. But for me personally, I think it adds a much more aggressive and much more clean look when the truck is level. A notable thing as well is just looking at it from the back. I have these pretty cool mud flaps on there. They say Ram on them, and they clash that black with the silver really, really well. And I like to actually see them. And when I'm looking at the truck from the back, I can see them a little better, which I think adds to the aesthetic of the truck. So number 2 is going to be gas mileage. Obviously, this is a negative. I've talked about this in the past as being a concern, and it is the real issue. The gas mileage is without a doubt the number 1 biggest downside to lifting your truck. I went from about 22 miles per gallon on my best day, averaging around 17.5 to 18.5, to 13.5 on my worst day, and averaging around 16 to 16.5 when there's more highway driving. So let's do some quick math here just to really understand the cost difference that it could be. Now, this is my numbers, my averages, so take this with a grain of salt because it also depends on your truck. If I have 15 miles per gallon times a 26-gallon tank, which is what it is on my Ram, that gets me 390 miles of range. Now, the average person drives about 15,000 miles. And I'm going to divide that by my 390 mile range. Gets me about 38.5 times that I'm going to have to fill up. It costs me $150 to fill up. That's $5,769. So I just did the same calculation as if it were before I lifted my truck. And it comes out to a little less than $5,000, which is about a $750 increase annually from when I didn't have my truck lifted. So let's be honest here, $750 is a good amount of money. So number 3 on my list of things to consider, which is a positive, is the decrease in the amount of sway in the truck after you hit a speed bump, road bump, pothole, which there is certainly no shortage of here in Chicago. And you're going to notice here, there is a lot less sway after the bump is hit. It's much stiffer because of the Bilstein shocks. And I don't act like I'm just swinging around like a swing set for a few seconds because it's a much stiffer ride. And I really like that. You'll notice I hit this bump and it's a quick bounce and stop. Whereas with the stock setup, I felt like there was a lot more sway. It lasted longer, and it was honestly just kind of annoying. Another reason that I actually enjoy this is because when I'm towing, I feel like there's less motion when I hit bumps and when I'm towing something heavy. For me personally, I tow a Mastercraft boat, I tow a 4-place snowmobile trailer, and I just tow random stuff with other open-ended trailers. And for me, it actually was a huge improvement on the ride quality when I was towing because there wasn't so much sway during that drive. With every good, there's also bad. And I think number 4 on this list feeds well in from number 3. What I did notice very early on, and I definitely did not expect this, and truthfully I think it has to do partially with the tires that I chose, but also the lift included. And that's when I hit a bump, I do feel like my back end is kind of loose. I don't feel like I have as much control when I'm driving the truck. and it is sometimes noticeable, quite frankly. It's something that I've had to get used to, but I don't think it's a big enough reason to scare you away from lifting your truck. I do think it's something to be notable of, because you will feel like there is less control because you're higher up. And if I hit a bump or I hit some kind of pothole, I do kind of feel that back end tail out just a little bit, enough for me to notice. So number 5 on this list is going to bring us to our final good, and that's going to be more traction when towing. And I know you're thinking, wow, Matt, you're talking a lot about towing. I never tow. And hey, maybe that's your experience and that's totally fine. But for me personally, when I tow large equipment, let's take a gas-filled Mastercraft boat, and I'm pulling it out of the water, when I had my stock setup, I noticed there was slippage, or I had to put it in 4-wheel drive to tow that thing up and out. And our boat ramp is pretty much entirely gravel. I was able to put on bigger tires with a more aggressive tread pattern, and I did not experience that same slip. And it was really nice for me. I felt more comfortable. I felt more controlled when towing that heavy equipment up on an incline in a rather wet environment. You're probably thinking, hey Matt, that has nothing to do with the lift. I think you're right and you're wrong. I was able to put on bigger tires with a more aggressive tread pattern, which of course you could put a more aggressive tread pattern on the stock setup, but I noticed with the tires that I chose, I was able to come up and out of the water without using 4-wheel drive with a very heavy piece of equipment behind me. Well, that's going to round out this Harv's Truck Stop video. I appreciate you tuning in today. I hope you learned something. Whether you agree with me or not, I would be really interested to know your experiences in the comments down below. I really like hearing from you guys, truthfully, but my entire intention is to share my experiences, my opinions, and to teach you guys what I've gone through so it can better help you guys make a decision for yourself. Because at the end of the day, it ain't my truck, it's yours.